Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's CX Quick Tips, man. It's going to be a rocking good time. Yes, pun is intended, because I have
Yes.
Jim Knight on the show with me. Jim, welcome.
Boom. What's up, buddy? Good to see you again, Jim.
Oh, man. And I don't, for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to see the interview that I had done with Jim Knight on my Fast Leader Show podcast, then we have a very different background because that interview, Jim was in his closet.
I was. Yes, yes. I had a lot going on that day, but you were able to squeeze me in, and I wasn't in my normal environment. But hey, still a great show. Always is with you, brother.
Oh man, I appreciate that. So today we're going to have a really good discussion. And while we're titling this the top three things customer experience and music have in common, these are the top three things that we want to talk about today. So we actually would like you to jump in on the conversation, either, during our live broadcast that's happening here, August 31st at 1:05, 1:06 p.m. Eastern, or absolutely, make some comments on LinkedIn and or anywhere this is posted for you, because we want to keep this dialogue going, because I think to me, that's the beauty about music and perspectives and all of that is, it kind of helps us find commonality, but then also, it really helps us to highlight some of our really creativity.
Exactly. And I hope people do join in and get involved. But definitely music for me, it's all, everything has been through the funnel of music, I think, over the last 25, 30 years for me. So yeah, I'm interested in talking about the things you want to talk about. So let's bring it.
Well, we're not going to talk about your hair because there's no way I can make that happen on this head.
Hey, you want to talk hair care products? I can go in that direction.
Okay, so now let's talk about the different genres of music, because goodness knows, I mean, even for me, having some of the online stuff now, I've even gotten some exposure to music genres I've never even heard of. But if we think about music genres, how does that actually reflect customer experience?
Well, first I would say, I was not really halfway joking at the beginning. I really do. My lifestyle has been focused on music, and I think people can resonate with music. I think that helps a lot. I do a lot of band and brand analogies to the point that you were making, because I think there's something so cool about being a team member in a business is a lot like being in a band, and there's team dynamics and there's, collaboration, and sometimes there are people butting heads and all that stuff. But I do think about different genres all the time, because honestly, I think genres reflect specific styles, specific taste that you have, personally, but also your feelings at the time. And people that just like music in general and not one style, they will flip the knob depending on what they're feeling at the time. So I think about bands that are, let's say, in the rock or blues or country. I say those three words right out of the gate. These are the first three that I can think of. And I go, those are going to elicit different emotions for people. It's either put your head down and it's head banging and it's I'm ready to take the hill when it comes to rock and roll, perhaps. But blues, it's a little bit more quiet and subtle and laid back. And it's just a different type of a feeling, where country maybe elicits a little bit more of a communal, a carefree party lifestyle. When I think about bands like Jimmy Buffett, or, you start to think about Dave Matthews Band, or you think about bands like Grateful Dead. Like I say those words and people will absolutely swear there's a culture that comes with that. There's a feeling that comes out of it. But if I start saying Foo Fighters or Imagine Dragons or Dua Lipa or Taylor Swift or Bruno Mars, that elicits something different. So I think when it comes to different genres, I think when it comes to the experience with the customer, and this is the point I would love to make on that, is I do think that you have to think, what knob do I need to turn to right now? If I'm going to truly read the customer, seize the moment to personalize this experience that's about to happen, I want to rock their face off. And I say rock in a very broad term. Which button, which lever, which direction do I need to go in to absolutely slake them so that they go, I am coming back for more of that. That's the whole goal. When I think of genres, it's always different.
Well, and even as you were talking, I started thinking about, ultimately music appreciation, right?
Yeah.
Because even when I started looking at the different parts of the organization that ultimately are needed to be part of the band, they may be rocking, and again, just
Yes,
as
broad
rocking
term.
their own tune, right? But
Yeah.
even, for me, having the Google Music thing and all that, I heard of, music genres that never even came across my mind because I've never been exposed to them, like Brazilian funk. What is that? Well, I had to look it
Yeah.
up, right?
Well, and I had to take a music appreciation class in college. And from that, I used to teach a class like that when I was working at Hard Rock. I was there for 21 years. And it wasn't just enough to teach people how to clean beds or bust the tables or wash dishes or serve or whatever. We wanted them to absolutely be dunked in the spirit of rock and roll. So just exposing them to a little bit more. I'm not thinking that they're going to run off and rediscover, how their entire music genre, their entire playlist. Although, for me, music is the soundtrack of our lives. So anytime that you can get into other areas, like you mentioned, I think you just become stronger. You become that much more aware. You walk in other people's shoes. So music appreciation, man, I love that. I think we have that in common.
So then I start thinking about, really when you start looking at it being a band, it being something that, requires, multiple people to have appreciation for, I start thinking about, a one-man band. Is it possible for a one-man band to actually, be on the top of the charts in regards to customer experience?
I think it may be even easier, to be quite honest with you. I think if you think about, from a customer experience at its core, it's really about what is ultimately, well, in totality, being delivered to the end user, the customer, the guest, the consumer, whatever it is. I think that a one person, and if I really believe this, that it is all about one-to-one relationship. It is about what this team member is going to do for that end user to absolutely get them to do three things: to come back, spend more money, and to talk about me positively. It's the only three things I ever care about on any survey that I've ever seen. Am I going to rock your face off that you're coming back, spending more, and you're going to talk about me favorably? Well, what you have to do is ultimately, again, I think, look at the person, seize this moment to truly customize, personalize, individualize the experience. I think if you do that, it's the story of everybody's lives. This is how these great relationships are built, that you create an emotional attachment actually to the brand because of this one brand ambassador. So I fully believe that a single person can truly make a difference. So I hope there's some people that are working on their own thinking, yeah, I can totally make a difference. You can, you absolutely can.
Well, then that also leads me to believe, before we started recording, you and I were talking about the Rolling Stones and the recent passing of Charlie Watts. And
Yeah,
um,
sad.
yeah, well, and then for me, when they started even mentioning about his passing, they're like, the 80-year-old Charlie Watts, drummer of the. I'm like, 80 years old.
Yeah, can you believe that? 80.
It shocked. I mean, I was like, I guess, well, yeah, that's right. It was amazing for that, to come to light for me. And so then I started thinking about the one-hit wonders,
Yeah.
and you start thinking about bands that are the Hall of Fame types of bands, like the Rolling Stones and so many others that we can name off of the top of our head. Is it possible for a one-hit wonder to deliver a customer experience that's going to allow them to be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I believe so. I think if you believe the earlier answer to your second question, I think if one person can truly make a difference. I mean, I talk about this all the time in my book, my new book, Leadership That Rocks. I talk about that a single person with a great idea can start a revolution. And I think that's how dictator-led countries are overthrown. That's how philanthropic movements are started. That's how brands become sustainable. They become successful. And again, it's not on some big, grandiose, massive stage. I think it could be this one-on-one experience that happens. It's basically the story of my life too. I was just a host seating tables. That's what I started with. And then I became a trainer. I was opening up Hard Rocks around the world. Then I became head of training. And next thing you know, I'm there 21 years, a massive long-term love affair with this brand that I believe that every time I came into touch, I have to think like this. This is how rock stars think. If I crush the experience that's happening right now, this person is never going to leave me. They're never going to be on the other side of town cheating on me. They're going to be loyal. I could raise my prices. I could make a mistake every once in a while. They're going to come back and spend more money and talk about me favorably. So I do think if you believe in the experience, even if somebody visits one time, the one hit wonder, I think it actually creates an experience that they're never going to forget. That's how my mind has to think.
Well, and when you did that, and when I first, looked at that particular question, I was thinking a couple different ways, but your answer started me to think about, my favorite one-hit wonder, or one of them, which is by Dexy's Midnight Runners. Come on, Eileen. Right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so,
Name another song from them. Exactly.
exactly right. But for me, is every time I hear that song, it just, I'm connected with it right away. So it's, for me, enabled an experience to be remembered,
Yeah.
for the past, 40 plus years.
And this is why we talk about this all the time. It actually does resonate somewhere in your limbic part of the brain where you can remember things from 40 years ago because it had such a huge, profound effect on you. Maybe it was, you can remember who you were hanging out with, where you were driving, what football game you were going to, who you were making out with at the time. Like anytime you hear those songs from 40, 50 years ago, there's actually a scientific reason why. But it's the whole reason, not just because my background is in music. I do have the degree. I was there for 21 years. I just think people love and resonate music. So I'm so thankful that you picked this topic in the way that you did, because I really do believe if you can do some music orientation, if you can think about a business being like a band, I think there's a lot of cool analogies there. So yeah, I think one hit wonders still going to matter to you. It's a soundtrack of your life, at least.
Well, definitely. And so I'll be singing "Come On, Eileen" until I can't
The
sing
rest of the
more.
day, at least. Yeah.
Well, I think it's one of those. As they say, when I take my last breath, I might be singing "Come On, Eileen."
Yeah. Well, you ought to be playing it in the background when you go then, brother.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Well, Jim Knight, it's always a great time to chat with you. How do the CX Quick Tip listeners get in touch with you?
The easiest way is just go to my website. That's Knight Speaker. That's my last name, KNIGHT speaker.com. You can pretty much see everything, my books, my podcasts, all the other stuff that I do. So I appreciate you sending them that way, my friend. Thank you.
And we also are looking forward to have Jim be a regular contributor to our CX Quick Tips. And Jim Knight, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. And we wish you the very best.
I love it. Thanks, my friend. Rock on. We'll talk soon.